Hey, I'm Mark the Carson. Means we have finally week 3 power rankings part 1. This is going to be the bottom 16 teams. In the info box up at the top of your screen or popping up whenever, you should see the link to the part 2. That will be the top 16 teams. I hope that you wait till the end of the video to watch it, but if you just really only want to see the top 16 teams, just know that it's there. And you can go ahead and hop over there now. But for now, we're going to go ahead and talk about the bottom 16 teams. So the bottom 8 right now, they're having a pretty bad season. I kind of have them in little sections like that. I think that makes it a bit easier to imagine. This is just teams that really they need to step it up. I mean, they've been playing pretty badly, and obviously 25 has been playing way better than 32. I mean, I don't sit there and say which teams are having a bad season. I just rank them, and then the bottom 8 end up having a pretty bad season. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get into things with the worst team in the league, in my opinion. You probably already know. It's the Jets. They haven't moved from last week. One of the big things I haven't heard anyone talk about is the fact that Jamison Crowder and Breshad Perriman are both out for this week, and so now their only backup wide receiver that is not injured or at least questionable is Josh Malone. He is the only one who is not questionable, and the only one who is questionable is Braxton Berrios. So the only way they're going to have 3 wide receivers is either Braxton Berrios gets cleared for Sunday, or they're going to have to put in a backup tight end in as wide receiver, which is not going to be good for the Jets. It's going to make him even worse. I mean, if there was a 33rd spot, they'd probably go into that after this. They should move down. They've gotten so much worse over the season, and they can't move farther down. So this little dash right here, while it means that they didn't move, they really moved down. I think they got worse. 31st, we have the Giants. I thought they'd be able to pull something out. I honestly last week thought they were much better than the Lions. They held their own against the really tough Steelers defense, and then they go into Chicago and they really underperform in my opinion. They only scored 13 points. They had a last second drive there, almost made a touchdown, but they didn't. And really, with Saquon Barkley injured, I think their season has kind of just been thrown down the toilet. Really, there's that was a stupid analogy, but whatever. And they're another one that I mean they've got. I mean, if they're gonna have to let Daniel Jones kind of take over this team, and I don't know if he can do that well enough. And I also don't trust Devontae Freeman really well. So I think the Giants, they bump down 3 at least until next year, I guess. Let us say until Saquon's healthy, but he tore his ACL. He's gonna be out for the rest of the season. So if you're a Giants fan, I mean, we got both New York teams. I just feel kind of bad for you. Coming in at 30th, we have the Miami Dolphins. Now, before we start, one, these are not predictions, and 2, I ranked these before the Thursday night game. If I had ranked these afterwards, the Dolphins would be bumped up probably to 26th, 25th or something. But I ranked all these before the Thursday night game, and now I am showing them to you. Okay. Next week they will be adjusted for the Thursday night game that happened yesterday, or I guess 2 days ago from when the time you're seeing this. So just know that this is how they played in the first 2 weeks. Okay. I'm just gonna if I didn't do this, then you wouldn't see what I thought of them after their week 2 performance. I don't know. I just feel like it's better that way. In 29th, we have the Panthers, who dropped down 2. You may be kind of confused. Why did they only drop down 2 if they lost Christian McCaffrey? It is because the bottom 3 here are just so terrible. I know, again, the Dolphins played pretty well yesterday or 2 days ago, whatever. But as of week 2, the Panthers, in my opinion, still have enough talent in Teddy Bridgewater, who is 4th or 5th most passing yards in the league right now. He just needs to start finishing drives. He has 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. They've really been relying on Christian McCaffrey down on the red zone. They haven't had much passing success down there. But if they just they have some good wide receiver talent, DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. We've seen them kind of utilize that. Or really, Teddy Bridgewater needs to bump it up. Wait, no, I think he has a couple touchdowns, just not in last week. Sorry, I got a bit mixed up there. Anyways, let's move on to 28. We have the Lions, who bump up 2 actually from 30th after they and a lot of this, it doesn't have anything to do with them. I don't think that they necessarily got better, but I think they just played kind of how I thought they would. I thought they would let up definitely as much points as the Vikings. I mean, as you can see, I definitely think the Vikings are better than them, as they haven't shown up yet. But yeah, so they just kind of get bumped up too, mainly by all the people moving around. You see the Giants, Panthers moving down. So yeah, they end up going to 28th, but really I think they haven't really changed my mind if they're going to be good or bad yet. I just think that, they kind of played the same as they did in week 1 and week 2, in my opinion. Their defense didn't play too well, and their offense did show up. In 27th, we have the Broncos, who dropped down at 3 after they lost to the Steelers, but they actually got pretty close to beating them. One of the big reasons why they moved down, they kind of impressed me, but they have Jeff Driscoll in at quarterback now because Drew Lock got hurt, which is not something you wanted to hear as a Denver fan. That is about as bad as it gets right there. Your starting quarterback is now injured, and you have the former backup for the Lions playing. And, I mean, he can play pretty well. He kept y'all in this. I think that, he could go out and he could, he could win you all a couple games depending on how long Drew Lock is going to be out for. But I wouldn't be completely, destroyed. And, I mean, I'll be I would honestly be happy with Jeff Driscoll in quarterback than Blake Bortles. And they started bringing in Blake Bortles. And, yeah, I wouldn't be I think Jeff Driscoll is a pretty formidable quarterback, in my opinion. I don't know how many ways I can say this. Moving on to 26th, we have the Eagles, who dropped down 5. I thought, maybe it was a pretty terrible matchup there for the Eagles against Washington. And I thought, maybe they could bump back. Maybe they can keep it close against the Rams. And maybe they can even pull out a win. No, they get completely destroyed by 18 points. And I just, I don't. They get dropped down by 5 points here. 26th, they're having a pretty bad season. They really need to put things back together. I just think it's crazy how I know that this is going to sound weird. I know it's supposed to be objective, but almost all of my predictions that I had before the season that people were coming after me saying that I was stupid for are kind of low-key coming true. And I just wanted to kind of flex that for like half a second. All right, moving on to 25th. You already know who it is. It's the Vikings, who brought down by 15 points. And this is the biggest mover of the day, I'm 100% sure, because here's the deal. I thought that last week a lot of it had to do with the fact that it was Aaron Rodgers, and it was week 1, and there was no preseason. I thought they were playing a little sloppy. We've seen teams play really bad in week 1 and bump things up. I thought the Vikings were like that. And I also thought, they did keep it within, I think, 8 points there, and it was a 42-34 game against the Packers. I thought, maybe, they're kind of in the same league as the Packers. He needs to step up their defense, and then they lose 28-11. Kirk Cousins plays absolutely horrendously, and I'm just sorry, but they need to get bumped down by a lot. Again, they're at 25th. They're almost into the, meh category that's up next. But still, Vikings, you really need to turn things around. Y'all need to start playing like you did last year. Y'all, in talent-wise, the Vikings got better. They got Justin Jefferson. All they did is they took Stephon Diggs, got rid of him, and then they added in the rookie Justin Jefferson, who could be even better than him. Now they're playing so terribly. With Stephon Diggs that big of a part of the offense, he didn't have such amazing stats. So really, they just need to figure themselves out. They need to look at the tape from last year. They need to figure something out, and they need to go out next week against the Titans, and they need to play hard because the Titans are a very, very good team. And they need to, if they lose this one, it's basically over, in my opinion. 0-3 is pretty bad. Next we have meh. They could be doing better. They're not being terrible, but also, they're just meh. They're not good. They're not great. They're not bad. They're just meh. So, as you know, the Bengals are going to be down here already. And there they are, the Bengals. I didn't know I did that, but the Bengals, they dropped down 2 from 22. Now, this is from the Thursday night game last week. Last week the Bengals were at 22, but I hadn't counted in their performance from the Thursday night game. Now I am counting in their performance from the Thursday night game, and they've bumped down 2. I'm trying to kind of explain it to you guys so that I don't have to do it anymore. Really, there's nothing I can say. They did kind of, in my opinion, they played a bit better than they thought they would. I don't know how they ended up bumping down 2, but they did kind of impress me. They're just being kind of meh. They really need to, Joe Burrow, he looks like a pretty good quarterback. He looks like as he develops and as he gets into the league, I think that he could potentially become one of the best quarterbacks that the Bengals have had in the last couple of years. And I think that he could be their quarterback, a franchise quarterback for the next, 5, 6, 7, 10 years. If you're a Bengals fan, unless things start falling apart, unless he goes crazy and throws 17 interceptions next week, against the Eagles, then, I honestly think that y'all could get your next win next week against the Eagles. So, come on, guys. If y'all beat the Eagles, y'all definitely bump up. Just saying. In 23rd, we have the Browns, who bump up 6 after they really surprised me, and they completely, they did really well against the Bengals. That defense, in my opinion, I know I just said that Joe Burrow was pretty good, but still allowing 30 points to that kind of offense, that really, I mean, they didn't look spectacular, but the Browns defense kind of faltered. But their offense, though, completely showed up. I mean, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt were amazing. They seem to be an amazing running back duo. And I'm really, interested to see how they can play against the tough defensive line they're playing this week against Washington. So right now, I mean, the Browns, y'all kind of impressed me. Y'all bumped up all the way from 29th. Y'all had a terrible showing against the Ravens. Then you go up against a team that, you probably should have beaten, and you did. I'm kind of in... This is not a very good video. Moving up to 22, we have the Colts, who bumped down 2. Again, I don't know how they bumped down 2. They really kind of impressed me, but they ended up bumping down 2. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the Vikings did play terribly last week, and that probably has a lot to do with the fact that they won. But again, they did win, and their defense did hold up. They didn't allow a touchdown to the very, very, very end. And in my opinion, I mean, Phillip Rivers, he's in a new system. He's an old quarterback. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. I think that's the thing he goes. It's going to take him a while to get into this thing. So I think he's probably got another 2 or 3 years with the Colts. And if he doesn't pick things up, then he will probably be dropped. I think I'm just scared that the Colts will turn him into kind of like an Eli Manning situation, even though they haven't had him since he was a rookie. I'm scared they could be like, oh, we have Phillip Rivers. He looked so good on the Chargers before, and they could hold on to him for so long, and he could turn into an Eli Manning type player. Just saying. I'm a bit scared for the Colts for that. In 21st, we have Washington, who bumps up a couple, actually. Again, I don't know why. If it's like if they don't move or they go up to 3, it's kind of all the same. If they're a big move, like the Browns bumped up 6 because they really impressed me last week. The Vikings bumped down 15 because they really didn't impress me. The Eagles bumped down 5 because they really looked terrible. That's whenever like the Washington football team, they kind of played exactly how I thought they would. They got beat 30-15. We've seen that their front 7 is really the whole part of their offense, and when their defense, and when they're going up against a Cardinals team that really has an insanely mobile quarterback, that was last year the statistically hardest quarterback to sack, and that's your main form of defense. And also, I mean, their passing attack is one of the best in the league right now. It was a pretty terrible matchup, and they did manage to keep it within 15, which I know isn't much, but when you're going up against that terrible of a matchup, I mean, might be the worst matchup other than the Ravens, who they play next week. So, Washington football team fans, y'all probably, I mean, in my opinion, they played the same way they played in week 1. It's just that it was a terrible matchup. That's all I can say. So, they really kind of stay in the same area. They just end up getting bumped up, too. In 20th, we have the Bears, who bump up 6. We all kind of thought that the Week 1 matchup was a fluke, and they come out in Week 2 and they get another win. So, we'll see what happens. But right now, the Bears, they're looking like a pretty good team. Now, again, they haven't really gone up against any serious contenders. The Lions, they except for that running game, they really don't have anything going for them. The Giants, again, they don't have anything. They're 31st right now. The Bears, though, they did show some promise, and if they go up against some pretty formidable team and they win, then they will definitely be bumped up top 15 more. They could fly up these rankings if they beat a formidable team. But again, they impressed me. They won for a second time in a row, and while Mitchell Trubisky didn't show up in the second half, he did show up in the first half, which, this is going to sound stupid, but first game, he showed up for 1 quarter. Second game, he showed up for 2 quarters. Yeah, I'm being stupid. In 19th, we have the Cowboys, who have been severely disappointing me right now, or not disappointing me, but like playing much worse than I thought they would, and I'm a Washington fan. They come out in week 1, and I know the Rams are good, but they get completely pummeled. I know they only lost by 3, but really it was a complete dominating. It was a complete dominance by the Rams. If you were watching that game, it really was it wasn't close. The score, it really should have been like a 10-point game or something. The Rams completely dominated that whole game. It's just the fact that they ran down the field and they took time. Anyways, and then in week 2, the Cowboys come out. They allow 39 points to the Ravens, and then they shouldn't have won that game, really. They got kind of lucky there that the Falcons apparently didn't know the onside kick rules, didn't know they could jump on the ball. Even I know that, who has never played football. I played flag football in kindergarten. It doesn't count. So Cowboys, y'all are looking pretty bad. I mean, the Seahawks game this week is going to be a complete blowout in my opinion. In 18th, we have the 49ers, and you know why they dropped down by 11. It's because of all of the injuries. I mean, talk about, like, we've seen, like, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley so far. They have Jimmy Garoppolo, Raheem Mostert, Tevin Coleman, both of their running backs. I mean, George Kittle is out. I mean, he's questionable. Deebo Samuel's on IR. I mean, they got completely pummeled. Now we go over to defense. I mean, you've got Nick Bosa, Solomon Thomas. It's terrible. I feel so bad for him. Richard Sherman. They're being completely blown out. I mean, really, the 49ers. I mean, we've seen in the past couple of years how Nick Mullins can win some games. He's not completely terrible. And also that, they do still have Trent Taylor, Brandon Ayuk, and Kendrick Bourne. Most of their wide receivers are still on there, of course, excluding Deebo Samuel. So, but again, they're going to be falling so hard on Nick Mullins. I mean, they're going to be meh. That's all I can say. And then 17th, we have the Chargers. And they got bumped up by 8, mainly because, they put in Justin Herbert. I mean, he looked spectacular. He goes up against a really, really tough Chiefs defense, and he dominates. But it is his first game, so anything could happen. The reason they didn't get bumped up even more is mainly because it was his first game. We have to see more from him. He still isn't proven. We have to, see a couple more weeks to put him. I mean, if he plays the way he did last week, every single week, and their defense plays the way they played last week, every single week, they could be a top 10 team. That's all I'm saying. Probably will be. If they keep this going throughout the week and they don't put Tyrod Taylor back in, the Chargers could very well end up making the playoffs pretty easily. So yeah, that's about it. I'm gonna actually, when I'm done with my outro, I am literally gonna stop recording, then I'm gonna press start recording, and then I'm gonna start talking about the part 2. So again, right now, it would be a good time to go ahead and go over to the week 2 power rankings. Go ahead and watch those and see what I think the top 16 teams in the league are, and how I rank them. So yeah, sorry, I've been stumbling through this whole video, but I'd be very happy if you went ahead and subscribe. We do these every single week along with predictions and recaps of the week. And then we do Thursday night recaps, Monday night recaps. I'm a Washington fan, so every Sunday or Monday I just sit down and I rant about the Washington game. I also do a preview of the Washington game, unbiased. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'm very, very grateful that you did that. In my description, you'll find links to my Twitter and Instagram. I'd be very grateful if you follow those. All right. Please go watch my other videos. I'd be very, very happy.